If you're not living under the rock, you know that editors who can pull off these animations with UI style are actually getting crazy numbers. So in today's video, I'm gonna give you an absolute foundation for creating that UI style. We're gonna be creating an absolute banger, just take a look at that. So yeah, these types of animations are really trending right now and you wanna learn how to make them, because that way you're gonna have more views and more potential clients will see your work. But before we begin, I just wanted to mention that I just released an upgrade of Motion Essence. This is a pack with over 130 assets that includes so many different animations that are ready to use. So all you need to do is just drag and drop and you got a ready animation. Imagine how much time it will save you. Instead of creating something from scratch, you're gonna have it right away there. So yeah, just use code OLDPRICE at the checkout and you're gonna get 50% off. This is a limited offer and it's gonna disappear pretty soon. Link in the description, and remember, code OLDPRICE. And now let's go ahead and get started with this beautiful animation. Alright, we're back in the software. Let me just show you the comp settings. Now I'm gonna hit OK. And the first thing we need is the folder. So for this, I'm gonna grab the rounded rectangle tool and we're gonna start with creating a shape. Something like that should do. I'm gonna recenter. And then the next thing we need to do is rename the layer. And I'm gonna duplicate rectangle 1. Now I'm gonna scale down the second rectangle and I'm gonna drag it somewhere here. Alright, let's make sure to align it. We can use arrow keys. And the next thing we need to do is duplicate this rectangle one more time and we're gonna drag it to the right. Now I'm gonna change the roundness for the third rectangle and this should be fine. So basically that was an easy way to create a folder. What we could do is actually group these shapes. So I'm gonna right click, group shapes, and we can rename it to folder. Actually folder 1. I'm thinking maybe we could scale down the whole folder, and what I'm gonna do is hit P for the layer. I'm gonna create a keyframe for position, move forward, and the next thing we want to do is drag Y position lower. So something like that should do. And then what we need to do is alt click the stopwatch and paste the expression. You will find that expression in the comment below. Alright, so look at that now. We got that bouncing effect. Also, we can add a little bit of bounce to rotation. So I'm gonna hit R, I'm gonna create a keyframe, move it forward, and then let's just play around with the value. I'm gonna alt click the stopwatch and do the same with the expression. So let's paste, and now we got something like that. I think we could start with a positive number in the beginning. So let's do it like that. Okay, pretty cool. And the next thing we want to do is make sure to grab the ellipse tool and we're just gonna create a circle around it. You can hold shift to make it even, and then we're gonna replace the order. I'm gonna rename to circle, and also I'm gonna change the color to, let's say, white. Alright, we're gonna hit S for the circle. I'm gonna create a keyframe for scale, and then I'm gonna change it to 0. Alright, so that's what we have. We're gonna extend the keyframes and then I'm gonna easy ease. Now I'm gonna go ahead and click on the graph editor and let me just create a peak on the left. Okay, that seems pretty cool. And now what we want to do is kind of overlap the keyframes for the scale. So we want to make that circle disappear, actually go back to 0 in scale. So for this, we're not gonna create a new null object and overlap the keyframes, but we're just gonna go to the properties in the circle and we're just gonna click on the scale here. Now I'm gonna move forward and change it to 0. So that way we can overlap the keyframes without creating a new null. Also we need to easy ease, and I'm gonna go to the graph editor and we're just gonna play around with this by dragging the left yellow dot to the right. It seems really fast, so I'm gonna extend it a bit, and now it seems a bit better. I'm just thinking about scaling down the folder, so for this I'm gonna head over to the scale and let's do it like that. And now when the circle is coming back, what I would like to do is create another 4 folders that will be exploding out of that folder. So for this, I'm gonna head over to the properties over here. Let's go to contents and we're gonna duplicate that folder 1. Now, as for that folder, I'm gonna make sure to scale it down over here in the properties. Something like that should do. And then I'm gonna set the keyframe for position and also rotation over here. I'm gonna move forward and let's just play around with the values. I'm gonna probably drag it to the left corner on top. Now I'm gonna play around with rotation and then I'm gonna select all keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, and we're just gonna create a peak on the left. A pretty sharp one because we want to have a rapid movement in the beginning. Okay, so that's what we have. We just need to adjust the timing a bit. Okay, a bit later, and should be perfect. What I would do is probably just drag it a bit further away. It's really nice, little adjustment, a bit more upwards. I'm gonna go back to the graph editor and we need to make it even sharper. So I'm just gonna drag the yellow dot more towards the left. So we need to have that explosion effect. Alright, this seems to be perfect. Then what we need to do is duplicate folder 2. So I'm gonna hit Ctrl D, then I'm gonna hit U, and we're gonna adjust these keyframes. So these ones are gonna go towards the right. So make sure that the playhead is on the second keyframe and just put it somewhere here. Then we might wanna adjust the rotation a bit, maybe to a positive value. Yeah, that's actually really nice. And we also need to have two folders on the bottom. So for this, we're gonna go back to the contents. I'm gonna close it down and I'm gonna duplicate number 3. Let's hit U. And this time I'm gonna put this one on the right bottom corner. I'm gonna adjust the rotation a bit to achieve a different look. Yeah, that's actually really nice. Actually, as for this one, I feel like we could click here, go to the folder 4, and we're just gonna bump up the scale a bit, just like so. We're gonna go back to the contents. Let's close it down again. And I'm gonna duplicate folder 4. Let's hit U and we're gonna put it on the left. Let's see. Okay, it's gotta be a bit different. Yeah, actually I really like it. It's kind of cool that it's upside down. So what we're gonna do next is select all these keyframes, hit Ctrl C and make sure that the playhead is behind them, and we're gonna hit Ctrl V. Now what I'm gonna do is right click keyframe assistant and time reverse keyframes. Okay, so they are gonna go back to the folder. And the next thing we want to do is actually squeeze in the keyframes a bit and then select all these and drag them closer so the momentum is remained. Alright, so whenever the keyframes are coming back, we would want to have another round rectangle in the background. So let's go ahead and create one. Make sure nothing is selected, so we're creating a new shape. I'm gonna actually adjust it a bit over here. I might even bump up the roundness. And then what I'm gonna do is put it below and recenter. We might wanna actually make some adjustments. Then around this moment, what I would like to do is hit S and create a keyframe for scale. Then I'm gonna move it a bit forward and I'm gonna change the value over here to 0. Okay. We might need some adjustments for this. Then we're gonna paste the exact same expression for the scale. Let's see now. Okay. I'm thinking maybe adding a little bit of rotation could be cool. So we're gonna do this again. And we're just gonna alt click the stopwatch, paste the expression, and let's see now. Okay, this might be too intense. So for this, I'm gonna change the value to like, say -15 maybe. Yeah, pretty cool. I'm gonna rename it to frame. And what I'm gonna do next is change the color to kind of a grayish one. Let's see it okay? All right, let's bring back our focus to the frame. So what I'm gonna do is hit P and I'm gonna create a keyframe for position. Then I'm gonna head over to the size over here and click the stopwatch as well. Now make sure that the constraint proportions is turned off, and I'm gonna probably align these keyframes with the last one over here. And what we want to do is basically bump up the X in the size, and also we're gonna drag the position to the right, and we need to have that folder move to the right as well. But we can't really see, so for this what I'm gonna do is hit Ctrl K, and we're just gonna bump up the width so we can see everything. All right, even more. Perfect. So let's see what we got so far. Now let's go ahead and click on the folder, hit P, create a keyframe for position. I'm gonna align this one with these ones, and I'm just gonna make sure that the last one is aligned with the last ones over here. All right, just move it to the right. I'm gonna select all the keyframes over here, then all the 3 ones over here as well. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit F9, go to the graph editor, and we want to create a peak in the middle. We might even want to have it a bit earlier, and I'm gonna create a sharper one. Maybe let's start sharper in the beginning, even more. Alright, I'm just thinking about one adjustment for these 6 keyframes. So what I'm gonna do is select them, go to the graph editor, and we would actually want to start very sharp in the beginning. Alright, that's much better. We got that explosion effect. Alright, the next thing we want to do is create a new null object. So I'm gonna go to new, hit null object, and I'm gonna rename it to controller. Now I'm gonna select everything we have here, and I'm gonna parent it to the controller. Now make sure to go to one of the red values, so I'm just gonna hit U, and I'm gonna open it up, copy the expression, and what I'm gonna do is make sure that we got position over here, and we're gonna paste it over here. So let's alt click the stopwatch and paste the expression. Now this is gonna help us create bigger impacts. But first I'm gonna hold shift, click R, and I'm gonna do the same for rotation. Just make sure you got the expression in these 2 values. And what we're gonna do is take care of position first. So set a keyframe and just find that sweet spot when we got that bubble pop up. And then we're just gonna move downwards, just like so. All right, so this is already giving us a nice impact. If you squeeze in the keyframes, it's gonna be stronger. A bit too early, and I'm actually gonna extend it by 1 frame. All right, this is perfect. And around this time, when the folders are actually exploding, we need to have another impact. So for this, I'm gonna copy these keyframes, paste them here, and I'm gonna go to time reverse keyframes. All right, let's see now. So this is a nice extra touch. Now around this time, we would need another impact. So for this, I'm gonna copy the last keyframe, paste it here, and let's just find a sweet spot. And we're just gonna go downwards again. Okay. Really nice. And then we can hold Shift click R and let's add keyframes for rotation. So I'm gonna hit the stopwatch, I'm gonna move here, and let's just do it like that. We actually need 3 keyframes, so I'm gonna copy this one and I'm gonna paste it over here. Okay, that's way too intense. And also I'm thinking maybe changing the value to a positive number would be a bit better over here. All right, really nice, probably too intense. So we're gonna go for like maybe 8. Yeah, that's it. Also, to add extra spice, what you could do is copy these keyframes and paste them over here. See, that impact is much better now. So now what we want to have is the text over here. So when the folder is sliding towards the right, we're just gonna reveal the text. So I'm gonna hit Ctrl T, or you can just head over here to grab the type tool. And I'm gonna type in Motion Essence. Now I'm gonna bump up the size, then I'm gonna make sure it's in the middle, just like so. You know what we could do is actually parenting the text to our controller. So that way it's gonna act pretty much the same. All right, I just wanna make sure it's exactly in the middle. And then something I would like to do is the text animation that is kind of in the Apple style. So for this, I'm gonna head over here, animate, position. And what we're gonna do is change the value to 200. I'm gonna make sure to add property opacity. I'm gonna change it to 0. I'm gonna open up range selector 1, advanced, and we're gonna head over to the shape. We're gonna change the square to ramp up, and we need to make sure to bump up the ease load to 100%. And we need to also change the offset to -100%, set a keyframe, move forward, and bump it up to 100%. Okay, this is very fast, so we're just gonna extend it. I'm gonna adjust the timing. And actually something I would like to do is have that text only within the frame. So for this, I'm gonna head over to the modes and I'm gonna change the track matte to frame. Now make sure to turn on the visibility back on, and this is pretty much perfect. I think I misaligned it a bit, so let's put it a bit lower. All right, I'm gonna hit U and I'm gonna make sure to adjust the timing. Still too late. All right, before we add the final spice that will actually turn this animation into the one that makes more sense, is adding a new camera. So for this, I'm gonna make sure to create a new comp. So I'm gonna hit Ctrl N, or you can just head over to the project and click over here, and I'm gonna call it main animation. Now let's make sure to change the width to 1080, and I'm gonna hit OK. Now we're gonna take the animation we just created and we're gonna drop it on the timeline. All right. And now what we need to do is create a new camera. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna hit OK. I'm gonna drop it below, and right above the camera, I'm gonna create a new null object. Now let's go ahead and parent the camera to the null, and we're gonna turn on the 3D on everything. Also, I'm gonna rename the null for clarity, and I'm gonna change the color. All right, so the first thing I would like to do here is set a keyframe for position in our cam control. Then I'm gonna move to the beginning and I'm gonna zoom in. So that way we're gonna get that zoom out effect. I just want a slide one, nothing too over the top. But at this impact, we're gonna have something over the top. But first, let's just select these keyframes, hit F9, go to the graph editor, and we're just gonna create a peak on the left, just like so. Probably too intense, so for this I'm gonna extend it. Now I'm gonna duplicate cam control 1, hit U, delete the last keyframe, and we're gonna parent 1 to 2. Now I'm gonna go ahead and change the position of that keyframe. Actually, we need to find the spot when the explosion is happening, so it's around this time. So here, we're just gonna have a very rapid zoom out. Alright, now let's make sure to go to the graph editor, and we're just gonna create a peak on the left. Something like that, very sharp. Alright, so this is giving us even more impact, which is pretty cool. So now, just to make sure that it's looking like 3D, I'm gonna add one of the animations from Motion Essence, which by the way has a massive sale right now, 50% off with code all price. So make sure to check it out. So now I'm just gonna head over here to the Motion Essence folder, and I'm gonna grab something from messages. So I'm gonna head over here and I'm gonna grab the text switch. I'm gonna put it here. And now what I'm gonna do is turn on the 3D, and I'm gonna make sure that the position, Z position actually, is closer to the camera, just like so. Then we're gonna drag it lower, and I'm gonna go ahead and click on that, and let's just change the text. So for this, I'm gonna type in 130 plus assets. All right, it's a bit too big, so I'm gonna head over to the scale, and let's just decrease it a bit. All right, let's see that again. All right, perfecto. We're gonna go back, and we need to make sure that the timing is right. So I'm gonna adjust it a bit. All right, so this is giving us already that 3D feel. So this is pretty much perfect. One thing I would do is actually make it delayed a little bit, because we don't really have enough time to showcase this animation. So for this, we need to head back to the animation. And what I'm gonna do is hit you for everything. And basically, I'm just gonna make sure that everything from that moment on is selected. So let's do it like that. And we're just gonna offset it. Maybe even more. And then I'm gonna go back. And what I'm gonna do is duplicate Cam Control 2, hit you, delete the last keyframe, parent 2 to 3, so basically it's the same procedure. I'm gonna move it somewhere here, and I'm gonna get closer to the folders. Okay, that seems reasonable, but obviously we need to apply a better graph over here. So for this, I'm gonna head over to the graph editor, and let's just create a peak. Okay, I'm just gonna extend it for a smoother movement. I'm also gonna adjust the timing. All right, this seems to be perfect. So now when the folders are exploding, we need to have another cam control. So I'm gonna duplicate this one. I'm gonna hit you, delete the last keyframe, parent 3 to 4, and I'm gonna set it around this time when the explosion is happening. Right, so now we're also gonna add rotation keyframes. So I'm gonna keyframe all of them. Then I'm gonna move forward. And what we want to do is zoom out. And with Y rotation, we're gonna adjust it so we can see the entire thing, just like so. Probably X and Y would be cool here. Then you just need to find a sweet spot. All right, let's see now. Okay, so this is pretty cool. We obviously need to apply easy ease. Then we're gonna go to the graph editor, select everything on the right, drag the yellow dot to the left, and then we're also gonna drag that yellow dot towards the left to create a sharp peak in the beginning. All right, that looks pretty cool. I would probably offset it a bit. The next thing we would want to do is wiggle the camera, so make sure you got the type 2 node camera. I'm gonna hit OK. I'm gonna open up properties, transform, and I'm gonna alt-click the point of interest. Let's type in wiggle. In brackets, I'm gonna type in 1.3 comma, maybe 15, let's see. Yeah, that's a decent wiggle, I really like it. Then it's the time to actually bring that animation to life by spicing it up. So for this, I'm gonna head over to the animation, and what we want to do here is start with the circle. So for this, I'm gonna add the turbulent displace effect. Now we're gonna get that deformed look, which is pretty cool. But first, I'm gonna alt-click the stopwatch for evolution, and I'm gonna type in time asterisk 50. This is probably too little, so I'm gonna change it to 100. And now it actually has that nice move. And what I'm gonna do next is blur out the folder. So for this, I'm gonna start from this position. I'm gonna go to folder, add Gaussian blur, and I'm gonna hit the stopwatch for blurriness. Now when the circle is starting, we need to blur it out, and I'm gonna set it to 60. That's looking nice, but we need to make sure that repeat edge pixels is turned off. All right, so now it's really nice because the folder looks like it's in kind of a liquid, and that's the exact look we wanted. We might actually offset it a bit. And then when we're going back and that liquid is scaling down, we would want to actually delete the blurriness. So for this, I'm gonna copy these keyframes. I'm gonna paste them here, right click, damn it, I can click, right click, and keyframe assistant, time reverse keyframes. So now we're gonna get back that sharp look. Also, as for the circle, I'm thinking maybe gradient ramp would be cool. As for the start color, I'm gonna set it to, let's say maybe violet. Let's hit OK. All right, looks really nice. And then you can use regular glow, but I'm gonna go for the plugin, which is the deep glow. So I'm gonna add it to the folder. And what I'm gonna do is bump up the radius to 2000. Then I'm gonna set a keyframe for exposure. Let's go to the deep glow, and we need to find the sweet spot. When the circle is scaling down, we kind of wanna activate our deep glow. So make sure it starts from 0 and then goes to 1. That's actually looking really nice. I'm just thinking about changing one color in the circle, which is the start color, and pick something bluish. So we're matching the folders. We can really see that now. All right, here it is. Actually might be a better idea. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the deep glow. So I'm gonna make sure I'm in effects. Let's go to the deep glow. And whenever we're going back over here, we're gonna turn it off. So make sure to paste these keyframes and time reverse them. Okay, looks good to me. Oh, just as I'm looking at this, I feel like we could go to the folder here, and I'm gonna decrease that value so we have more intense movement. Okay, pretty cool. All right, for now, just to make it smoother, we can turn off the effects. I'm gonna go back to the main animation. And what I would like to do here is add some backgrounds. So I'm gonna head over to the layer new, then I'm gonna pick the solid, and we're just gonna grab white color. Let's rename it to white BG, and I'm gonna drop it below everything. And right at this position, we would want to get back to the black color. So for this, I'm gonna set a keyframe for opacity in our background. Then I'm gonna move over here and I'm gonna change it to 0. Okay, we need to adjust the timing a bit. Really nice, let's make it sharper. And then over here, I would like to do the same procedure. So I'm gonna copy the keyframes and paste them here and then time reverse them. Alright, so now the best part, which is basically turning on the motion blur, but first we need to head back to the animation and make sure that all the effects over here are turned on. Now I'm gonna switch the motion blur over here, and then I'm gonna also turn it on these two pre-comps, just like so. Okay, this is pretty cool, but I'm just thinking, I don't think I like that rotation over here. So what we could do is go to the Cam Control 4, hit U, and I'm just gonna delete the keyframes for rotation, just like so. Then we need to adjust the position. So let's do it like that. Maybe a little zoom out. Right. Yeah, much better. But one thing I've noticed is that we got the text switch over here. So all we need to do is just cut it at this position. I think I'm good with this. Then I kind of want to see the full quality. So I'm going to turn it back on. So that's what we've created today, an absolutely amazing animation. Love this one so much, especially because of the explosions and the deep glow. Looks absolutely fantastic. So with that being said, we're gonna wrap it up here, and remember to use code OLDPRICE at the checkout because you're gonna get 50% off for Motion Essence. So yeah, make sure to watch that video over here, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers guys.